Hi everyone and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial what we're going to do is we're going to create an array of numbers and we're going to write a function that will find and return the smallest number in an array to us. So I'm going to create an array. I'm just going to call it numbers. Let numbers be equal to, and just come up with some numbers yourself. I'll say 3, 9, 55, 102, 11, 44, 7, 8, 9, and 12. Okay, so we want to find the smallest number in the array. Let's actually put in a 2 here at the end. Okay, right, so what do we do? Well, we know we need to create a function, so we'll do a function declaration. We'll call it find smallest number, and this function is expecting to receive in a data type, so we will call the data type that's passed in an array. So we're just defining a parameter called an array. So we're going to be receiving an array, but what we need to do is we need to keep track of what we believe is the smallest number. So we know we need to store that in a variable. We need to keep track of what the smallest number is. So we'll say let min num be equal to the very first element of whatever array is passed in. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're just creating a variable called, sorry about this, wrong key. We're creating a variable called min number, okay? And this is going to be used to keep track of the smallest number in the array, okay? Then what we need to do is we need to use a for loop to iterate over or cycle over each element of the array. And inside of the for loop, we'll do a comparison or a check. We'll check to see if whatever element of the array we're on is smaller than the minimum number that we currently have, okay? So we know we need to create a for loop, so we say for. So we're going to start a counter variable, I, at 1. There's no need to start it at 0, because remember, here we've created a variable called min number. Actually, let's just call it smallest number for consistency, because I've called the array find smallest number. So now smallest number is equal to array at index 0, okay? Now what we want to do is we want to check to see if the other numbers in the array are smaller than the first element of whatever array is passed in. So that's why we're starting our counter variable I at 1. If you were to have it at 0 and we were to do our checks, the first time the loop runs, we would be comparing the first element of the array to itself. So we don't need to do that. And what we want to do is we want to run our loop while I is less than the array. So array is just a reference to the data type that's passed in. We've defined a parameter here, we've called it array. We're going to access the length property there, okay? And after each loop iteration, we're just going to increment I, our counter variable, okay? Then what we want to do is inside of the for loop, we want to do a check to see if the number we are iterating over in the array is less than the smallest number. So we can say array at index I. So remember, the first time the loop runs, we're checking to see this element here, because we're going to pass in numbers. So numbers at index 1 will be 9, numbers at index 0 is 3, numbers at index 1 is 9. So we're checking to see if array at 1, i.e. 9, or index 1, is less than the smallest number, okay? So the first time the loop runs, it's basically going to say that actually it's going to say that array at index I, i.e. array at index 1, which would be 9, it's going to check to see if 9 is smaller than 3. That does not evaluate to be true, therefore we won't enter this if statement here, okay? But if eventually we do find a number that is smaller than the smallest number, i.e. at the very end of the array, what you want to do then is you want to update the value of the smallest number and assign it whatever index value we're at, okay? When I say whatever index value we're at, what I mean is we want to override or update the value of the smallest number if in fact whatever index of the array we're on is containing a number that is smaller than the current smallest number. And when all of that is over and the for loop has completed running, We just want to return the smallest number variable, okay? Awesome. And then what we can do is we can store the result of that. So we'll say let results be equal to, and we know that this function will return the smallest number. So to get that, what we need to do is we need to call or invoke the find smallest number function. We want to pass in an array, in this case numbers, and then what we want to do is just log out to the console the results. We will say the smallest number is, and then just log out results. Okay, so we'll run this and see if our code works, and we get the smallest number is 2. Okay, awesome. Let me just change this. Let's just do a few other numbers. So we'll say 10, 15, 5, 4, and 10. I was supposed to type 10 there, apologies. Okay, awesome. So now the smallest number in the array is 4. So let's see what happens. The smallest number is 4. Okay, so basically what's happening? You know that is the smallest number in this array. So how does the code find it? Well, we have this array, and our function, we basically assign the very first element of the array, i.e. array at index 0, to our smallest number variable. So the first time that this code runs, the smallest number will have a value of 10, okay? Then we enter our loop, but we start counting where I is equal to 1. So we don't start counting, remember, arrays start counting at 0, we've seen that many times. We're going to start counting at the array name at index 1, so that way the first time the loop runs we're comparing 10 to 15 rather than comparing the first number in the array to itself if you were to do I is equal to 0. So we're going to start at I is equal to 1. So then what we're doing is we're checking to see if array at index 1, i.e. 15, is less than the smallest number, which is currently 10. That evaluates to false, therefore we do not update the value of smallest number. But the next time the loop runs, when I has a value of 2, and remember, after each loop, we increment the value of I, because we use the increment operator here. Now I has a value of 2. So when I is equal to 2, at array of index 2, array at index 2 has a value of 5. So is 5, array at index 2, less than the smallest number, which is currently 10? Yes, it is. So therefore, we execute the code inside of the if statement code block, and we update the value of smallest number to be array at index 2, which is actually 5. So now our smallest number has been updated to 5. We then come up here and use plus plus to add 1 to our counter variable I, and now I is equal to 3. And then we do a check. We say, okay, is array at index 3, i.e. 4, lower than the current smallest number? Well, I at index 3 has a value of 4. And is 4 less than 5? Yes, it is. So once again, we update the value of the smallest number variable to whatever index we're on, in this case array at index 3, which is this number here. So therefore, we update the value to 4. And the last time the loop runs, when we do our check, we find that 10 array at index I, so array at index 4, is not less than the current smallest number. So 10 is not less than 4. This code here evaluates to false on that iteration of the loop. Therefore, we don't update the value of smallest number again. We then exit the for loop. The for loop stops running, and then we return smallest number. And that is why we get 4. Okay, awesome. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.